Hi guys, welcome to yet another Vuvu Vena Reads vlog. So I am on my way to Sue Nyathi's book launch, An Angel's Demise. I want to say that's her new book that just came out this month. It is Tuesday the 25th of October. She is having a book launch at the Exclusive Books in Rosebank. So let's go celebrate little Miss Sue, because she's really doing the thing. So she's worth it. She's really worth it. Okay, so I'm just getting ready. Probably the next clip you guys are gonna see is gonna be at the actual event, and it's gonna be one of those, okay, just showing the scenery, showing some bookish people coming together. If I can, I'll try get a bit of the discussion, but that's what's up. So let's head out. Let's go.
Hi,
say hi.
Hi.
Talk about Sue Nyathi and her new novel, An Angel's Demise. Round of applause, please. Which Mona Munyane has graciously agreed to host. So Miss Munyane, she is a voiceover artist. She is also an actress. You've probably seen her on Mubango, Skim Sam, Kalushi, what else? Wild is the Wind on the 28th of October on Netflix. She is also the CEO and the founder of The Power of Wellness, which is a campaign that helps people cope with financial issues, mental health, and spirituality. Sue Nyathi. She was born and raised in Bulawayo, but she lives here in Johannesburg with her son. She did share that she actually fell in love with poetry first, curiously writing at age 8, and also getting lots of awards for it. But we are so glad that she actually fell in love with fiction writing, because she is damn good at it. And she has given us The Polygamist, she has given us Gold Diggers, which has been optioned for a film. As well as A Family Affair. And her fourth novel, which is what we're here to talk about, An Angel's Demise. I don't want to give too much away. It is about a woman with a fighting spirit. It's about that determination to get her independence. It's a fight for legacy. There's a lot of loss, and there's also a lot of, I guess, victory. But I will let the ladies discuss further. But please do grab a copy and have the author sign it for you before you go. Thank you.
I have to read the prologue, just the first page. Hello? Oh, there I am.
Okay, so I had to, in reading the book, there's just so much that I don't want to give away. And I have this very difficult task of talking about the book but not talking about the book, which is very difficult. But I would love to just read the prologue and the first page, just to immerse you into the tone of this particular offering, yeah? So, High Court, Harare, May 2008. Robbed of light, she was unable to discern the transition from day into night or one day to the next. The hours blended into each other seamlessly. There was no beginning or end, no sense of the passage of time. In solitary confinement, she was in complete isolation with no access to the other prisoners. By virtue of her crimes, which were classed as serious offenses, she was assigned to a private cell. An advantage if one considered the overcrowding in prison cells. It also meant she was isolated, her own thoughts tormenting her. She knew he had deliberately engineered it so that she would go insane. She could no longer vouch for her own sanity because she had now reached a stage of talking to herself, conversing with people she had conjured up, some from her past, a few from the present. When she could no longer invoke them, she spoke to the cockroaches or spiders that crawled into her cell. At first, she had been fearful of a furry spider with long legs that had crept furtively across her face and had screamed before flicking it away and squashing it to death. An action she later regretted as she reflected that it probably meant her no harm. So, when another spider made its way into her cell, she had been more welcoming, even letting it rest on the palm of her hand, the legs tickling her, reminding her of her sensibilities and that she was not completely dead. Now she knew better. Those arachnids were harmless. It was people she needed to be wary of. And they were outside, living their lives with careless abandon, while she merely existed inside this purgatory. I mean, ma'am, that's a way to entice a reader.
Yes, definitely.
So, Sue,
Yep.
my first question for you, what motivated this particular book?
So it's a lot of things, and the first being the history of my country, where I come from, Zimbabwe. You know, I always say, in order for you to understand the present, you need to understand the past. And sometimes the past can be distorted, or it's not, represented entirely in its truth. And so my motivation was to try and understand the past. And in trying to understand the past, that's when the genesis, of the story began. But the story itself of the two lovers in this book began a long time ago. I'd written it the story when I was like 15. So I had the skeleton, of the love story. But then I just added this layer of the history behind it.
I think that's the thing about it, right? The love story is one of the themes that we go back to quite a bit. For myself, I'm Zimbabwean born. My parents were in exile, so growing up in South Africa and being a nationalized citizen, it was always sort of difficult for me because I had to find knowledge about my birth country from the media and from the public and all of that, and there's a lot of propaganda.
Yes.
There's a lot of misinformation. And one thing about this book is that it is a historical drama. So as you read it, you do get deeper insight into what actually happened, what was going on. And I enjoy that you approached it from these two families, one that is a white family and one that is a black family. And the way that you navigated it as well showed no bias. Was that intentional? Did you really sit down and consciously reflect on that, or has it always been something that you felt was a necessary approach in relation to the history of Zimbabwe?
No, so I think in terms of intent, you know, I wanted to tell both sides of the story because there are two sides of the story, and I don't think you can tell the history of Zimbabwe without speaking about the white history as well. They're intertwined, and so that's why you find the narratives are also intertwined with the characters. So that on that part, it was deliberate. So they go together. You know, there's just no way, and I don't want to present one, you know, side of the story. I wanted to put them both, you know.
Based on people that you actually knew?
No, all these characters are fictional, please.
Okay.
Any resemblance to any living person is just purely coincidental.
There's one character, I was like, okay. No, I understand that. There, you know, one thing why I'm asking this is because even the way that you navigate to telling these people's stories is that there's no prejudice to it. Mm-hmm. These are characters you can relate to. These are characters that you know. Some of them, you know, might even have a cadence of your own personality, which I found enjoyable. Mm-hmm. And it also, as I said, is a historical drama. So you do go into the timeline of how everything went. Quite heavily so. Is this intentional as well? And for what reason? Because as I was reading this, I did feel as if there was an energy to say, I want to educate.
Yes, definitely. Because a lot of the times, especially on social media, Twitter particularly, you come a lot of discussions, which I find a lot of them are motivated, you know, by ignorance. People don't really understand, but they make such, you know, brazen comments. And I also wanted to, you know, set the story straight as well. And sometimes you can't do that, you know, in a tweet or a timeline. And I think with a book like this, you know, people, you know, can enjoy it at length. Because the nice thing about fiction is it personalizes history. You know, it's not academic, but you can actually enjoy it, but learn something. And I think there are even references for people if they want to read more about it afterwards, and if they want to learn more. So yeah, that definitely was one of my intentions, to educate.
And I'm grateful for that. It was educational for me as well. It also just gave me a perspective that sometimes it is important to research before you have an opinion. So on the topic of history, we had a conversation earlier today, and the importance of knowing one's history lest we repeat it.
Yes.
And I would like to know specifically what themes should we be taking away. And I think this is a compounded question, forgive me. But what themes would you like the reader to take away lest we repeat certain things? Does that make sense?
Okay, so I think there's the one important thing that I found in life is that if you don't learn from history, you know, and don't learn from your past mistakes, right? Things happen, you know, it happens again. History repeats itself. And I've seen this in my own life. And it's like now I've become so aware, you know, with self-awareness. I'm like, no, I've been here before. But now I know I'm not going to, you know, this is not going to end how it ended the last time. And so you navigate it in a different way. And it's the same with in life. I mean, I think of, you know, my past career in investments, right? When I would initiate on a company, I'd always look at, you know, its history 5-10 years back, even the share price, how did it perform? Because they are cycles in life and they repeat themselves. So it also helps you in forecasting and going forward. And it's the same thing with a history, you know, of a nation. If you don't understand what happened in the past, you won't necessarily understand what's happening now and what informs the now. But if you do, you have a better handle of what, you know, of the now. And it's the same thing with Angel, this character in the book. She doesn't know much about her history and she tries to piece it together, you know, with tidbits. I mean, she's orphaned at a young age, and she's also trying to retrace her roots. And it's almost like a jigsaw puzzle, so that she can make sense of the present and of who she is and where she fits in the world. So it's a very important thing. So even as a person, it's important to know your roots. You know, it grounds you. So it's the same. So for me, I think that's really the biggest lesson is know where you come from, and it you know, it'll inform where you're going as well.
And just to round that up, so it's important for us to do the necessary research to find out the building blocks that led to our current moment. One thing about Angel, this is a very dynamic character, and I love the journey that she goes through. But what shone out for me the most is the cross-cultural element of her upbringing and having to find herself. I think later on she adapts to this culture that has taken her in. But that process of identifying, right? So what element of identity do you think we are missing in modern day society as young women living in an environment where we do have to adapt, where we do have to be quite hyper aware of how we are seen, how we act, how we speak, how we dress, how we conduct ourselves? What is that you want to bring through the most through this offering?
Geez, that's such a difficult question. Because
I know.
I think it's so individualistic in terms of what is missing. But, you know, I mean, if you look at Angel's life, it's identity politics that she struggles with. And I think a lot of us do struggle with that, trying to fit in. And sometimes you're trying to fit into places where we have no business, you know, fitting in. And I think it's very difficult, I think, in this current world, is to carve your own sort of mark, you know, identity, and uninfluenced by other people. You know, a lot of the times, you know, as people, we seek external validation, you know, from other people externally. And it's trying to navigate to a point where, you know, you are defined by the internal, you know, your own character, and establishing that your own true identity, I think, is a difficult place to navigate to. And I think it's an ongoing process. We always evolve, as we grow older, you continue evolving and growing.
And I think identity politics is a very big theme that shows up, because even with Melanie's character, who essentially becomes, am I giving it away?
No.
I don't think I'm, okay. You have to buy the book. Because Melanie's character essentially adopts Angel and takes her in, but she's also seen as somebody who is quite anti the oppression that she finds in Rhodesia at the time, and then as it transforms and becomes Zimbabwe. But it's that, what I want to say is this: in navigating our identity as the feminine divine, the masculine divine energy and its presence in our lives can really, how can I say, define how we navigate. It can take us into a road that perhaps necessarily we did not want to go into. And you repeat this theme quite a lot.
Yeah.
What is the reason for that?
Because our societies are very patriarchal. I mean, if you look at all the women in this book and the way they interface with men.
And it is all of them.
Yes, all of them. And it really does change the trajectory of all their lives. It would have been a totally different story had, you know, it been totally absent of men, you know, but they all have to navigate, and, you know, sometimes they gain their power through proximity to men, and they have to negotiate how
to navigate that power.
Yeah, as well. And sometimes it's that same power can actually destroy you. So it's a very thin line as well.
And in terms of the patriarchy, because you do, you explore that quite a bit. But I think you also give it its due textures. Where did you have to go, and what resources did you pull from in order to tell the different expressions of masculinity in this book? Because there's quite a few very prominent male figures who have, you know, these wives or these love interests who have to adapt to this patriarchal system. But the way in which you've told them gives us sometimes empathy towards them, a sense of fondness even. Where did you have to go to do that, because I also feel like sometimes in books when we navigate masculinity, we really do take a very particular stance. And I don't think she did this in the book, because each character, even when you really want to not like them, you can't help but like them. What motivated that? Where did you find the resources? Were there males in your life that you went to as a source of inspiration?
Not necessarily as a source of inspiration, but I mean, I grew up with men. In my family, they're men. For a longest time, there were three children in the family, and I was the second born. My older brother, younger brother, so I'm flanked by boys. My father, the father figure. Lots of uncles and, in our family. So, I've always had that masculine energy around me. So in terms of observation, it's more of the lived experience as opposed to like interviewing men. So it's just watching and observing men. Also just beyond the home, in the workplace, men that I've interacted with socially as well. So there's just so much to draw from, because if you think of the time frames in which I started this book till the time I wrote it down, it's been a long time. So there's been enough time to.
But please do actually unpack that. How long has it been, the process of you writing this book? So I know you do tell us a little bit in your acknowledgements, but give us that history.
So like I said, the book started. It was called Skeletons in the Closet, right? That was the first draft of this book.
Oh, I missed some skeletons.
But then I think the title then changed later when I then decided to rewrite, because I just thought there were some good things in there. Not all of it was good. I mean, you can imagine writing at 15 and writing in your 40s. It's a different mindset. But there were certain things I liked about that manuscript, and so I picked it up. So when I started rewriting it, the whole process probably took me 2 years of writing, because I also had to do a lot of research as well to fleshing out the historical part. Yeah. So in total 2 years.
My goodness, that's quite a long time.
Yeah.
Some of us think we can write a book in a month. You explore identity quite a lot. Mm-hmm. I think what was a difficult moment for me as well was just the very harsh reality of who we are in our revolution. Mm-hmm. I think any struggle movement, the revolution is always overemphasized, and we don't always know what happens on the ground. Mm-hmm. You were not shy in expressing what the other side of the war looked like for the civilians, for the people in the villages who were not even involved. Mm-hmm.
Okay guys, so let's be honest, you might see me in this outfit in another video, maybe even Monday's video. Okay, it's a few days after Miss Sue. Let me get the book. Okay, it's a few days after Miss Sue's book launch. I was a little bit bleak, not so bleak. I was a little bit bleak that I couldn't bring the book with me to the launch because all of her books are already signed, right? All the books that I have that she has written, which is all the books, I don't know why I'm saying it like this, are signed. So this one is not signed, but I will hunt her down, okay? So it's a few days since An Angel's Demise's book launch by Sue Nyathi. I absolutely loved the discussion at the event. I understand she gives us a little bit of spice chow in this one, and this one has a little bit of war in it. Okay, I wanted, before I closed off this vlog, book launch vlog situation, to just read you a synopsis of the book. I just want to see. Okay, so I just want to read you a synopsis of the book. You guys know for sure that Sue needs no introduction on this channel. If you guys have missed any of my reviews of her books, I will link them throughout. Okay, actually, let me link them below, right? Her first book is The Polygamist. The second one is Gold Diggers, which is being turned into a television something. Yeah. Am I excited? Yes. Can you tell? You probably can. The third book is called A Family Affair, and then this is her fourth book, An Angel's Demise, and this seems like it's gonna be a little bit different from her regular contemporary fiction, in the sense that it deals with Zimbabwean genocide situation, war situation. I want to say Bakarakundi. I never know how to say that thing. Okay, that situation that happened in Zimbabwe that we all should know about and should know how to pronounce, but clearly nah, in a problem. But the main character's name is Angel. Absolutely love the cover and the fact that you can see her, right? You can't see her. You can see her, but you can't see her, and that is already very curious. So the back reads, An Angel's Demise is an epic saga, oh, love sagas, that explores a contested legacy and the heart-rending destiny of a family. The year is 1977, and the story begins on a farm in Somabula with the birth of Angel. The farm is run by Paul Williams, an outwardly harsh and bigoted man who holds the livelihoods of many in his hands. When Angel's parents join the liberation struggle, she is left in the care of her grandmothers, who have been in service to the Williams family for generations. Angel grows up on the farm over 3 momentous decades that see a convoluted past and inheritance unfold into an equally complicated present. Through her, we see a woman's quest to unearth her identity and assert her independence. In the process of self-discovery, Angel realizes that sometimes you need to be uprooted before you can grow. An Angel's Demise, Sue's fourth novel, is a gripping tale infused with spirituality. It recounts an explosive story of love, war, bloody massacre, and betrayal that encompasses a harrowing history. The cruel caprice of politics, gender-based violence, and what happens when ordinary people get caught up in lies. So you guys know Sue, that's Sue, and I believe that this is a masterpiece already. Okay, I'm about to dig in as soon as I can. Otherwise, thank you so very much for joining me for this vlog. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and if you haven't already, just join the family. We'd love to have you. And I always want to tell you guys how much I love you for choosing me, which I absolutely do. So thank you very much for stopping by. Until next time, bye now.